The Dragon King defeated every hero, until a human servant changed everything. Steam rises from the ground as the morning sun warms the great fortress of Dragonspire. Inside the vast stone hall, banners of gold and crimson move slowly with the wind. The smell of smoke and iron fills the air. Hundreds of warriors from across the 7 realms stand in silence, waiting for the Dragon King. The great doors open with a thunderous sound. A deep shadow spreads across the floor. Then a massive dragon steps inside, his scales shining like molten gold, his wings folding slowly behind him. His eyes glow bright like 2 suns, filled with age and wisdom. He is Valdrath, the Dragon King, ruler of fire, guardian of truth, and master of all living creatures that fly. Every step he takes shakes the ground slightly, and every breath he exhales sends a warm gust through the room. The crowd bows low, afraid to meet his gaze. For centuries, Valdrath has protected the balance between man and dragon. But now, his last guardian has fallen, and he must choose a new one. A warrior strong enough to defend the realm, yet wise enough to understand mercy. Valdrath raises his head and speaks, his voice deep like thunder rolling through the mountains. "Today one among you shall rise," he says, "and one among you shall fall." His words echo through the hall, and the warriors straighten with pride. The challenge begins. The first to step forward is a knight from the northern peaks. His armor polished, his sword glowing blue. He kneels and shouts, "My strength is unmatched. My blade can cut through stone itself." Valdrath watches quietly, then nods. "Show me," he commands. The knight swings his sword against a block of steel. Slicing it clean in half, the crowd gasps in awe, but the Dragon King only blinks slowly, unimpressed. "Power alone," he says, "is easy to find." Next comes a sorceress, her eyes glowing white, her hands full of fire. She floats above the ground, whispering ancient words. She summons lightning that dances around her body. The audience cheers, believing she will surely win. But the Dragon King's voice cuts through the noise. "Magic without purpose," he says softly, "is only noise." The sorceress lowers her head in shame. Then a beast tamer, a swordsman, a monk, and even a general from the royal army each try and fail. Each one shows power, skill, and pride. But with every attempt, Valdrath grows quieter, his golden eyes dimming. He has seen strength, but not wisdom. He has seen courage, but not kindness. Hours pass, and the crowd begins to whisper. "Maybe the test is impossible," one says. "No one can please the Dragon King," says another. The great hall grows cold as hope fades from every face. The warriors step back, unsure of what will happen next. Valdrath finally sighs, his massive tail curling beside him. "Is there no one who understands?" He mutters, his voice echoing through the stone walls. He turns his head toward the entrance. "Then perhaps," he says, "the world has forgotten what it means to be worthy." At that exact moment, the silence breaks with a small creaking sound. A side door slowly opens. The guards turn their heads. Everyone watches as a young stable boy enters holding a wooden bucket filled with water. His clothes are plain, his boots are muddy, and his eyes wide with confusion. He clearly has no idea what is happening inside the hall. He freezes when he sees hundreds of eyes staring at him. He quickly lowers his head and whispers, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." But before he can finish, Valdrath's golden gaze locks on him. The Dragon King tilts his head slightly, smoke curling from his nostrils. "You," the great voice rumbles. "Come here." The boy's hands shake. The bucket splashes water onto the floor. He hesitates, but the guards nod for him to obey, step by step. He walks forward until he stands before the Dragon King. The hall is silent again, no one dares to move. Valdrath lowers his head until his massive eyes are level with the boy's. "What is your name?" the Dragon King asks. "Logan," the boy answers, his voice trembling. "Logan Hayes, your majesty." The Dragon King's gaze deepens. "You are no warrior," he says slowly, "nor mage, nor knight, and yet you entered my hall without fear." Logan swallows hard. "I didn't mean to enter, my lord. I was only bringing water for the royal beasts." The crowd bursts into laughter. A few warriors whisper, "How foolish." But Valdrath's eyes narrow slightly, as if something about this boy amuses him. "Perhaps," the Dragon King says, "it is fate that brought you here." The laughter fades, and confusion spreads among the onlookers. Valdrath's massive tail sways slowly across the marble floor. He stares at Logan for a long time. his expression unreadable. Then, in a deep and commanding tone, he says, "Logan Hayes, human stable boy, you shall face my test." The hall erupts again in disbelief. A warrior shouts, "This is an insult to the challenge." Another adds, "He will not last a minute." But Valdrath silences them all with a single growl. The sound shakes the walls, dust falling from the ceiling when he speaks again. His voice is calm, almost curious. "Power has failed me today," he says. "Perhaps humility will not." Logan looks up slowly, his fear mixing with confusion. He doesn't understand what kind of test this is, or why a dragon would choose him, but he can feel the weight of hundreds of eyes watching. The air thickens. The heat of the Dragon King's breath brushes against his face, and in that moment he realizes he cannot run. He nods, his small voice steadying. "I will try, Your Majesty," he says. Valdrath leans back, his expression unreadable. The Dragon King's lips curve into what almost looks like a faint smile. "Good," he says. "Let the test begin." The crowd watches in silence as the boy stands alone before a creature older than time itself. The firelight glows on the golden scales of the Dragon King. Logan's heart beats fast, but he doesn't step back. Somewhere deep inside, courage awakens, quiet, gentle, but unshakable, and so begins the most unlikely test in the history of Dragonspire. Where warriors failed with might and kings failed with pride, a humble stable boy now stands before the Dragon King, unarmed, untrained, but perhaps destined for something far greater. The news spread fast across the kingdom like fire in dry grass. Every village, every market, every tavern whispered the same name, the Dragon King. For a century, no warrior had passed his test. The bravest knights, the strongest champions, even the wisest monks, and all had failed. Some vanished into smoke, some returned broken, and others were never seen again. Yet every year someone still dared to try, hoping to claim the title of royal guardian. The only mortal trusted to stand beside the Dragon King himself. Logan never thought he'd be one of them. He wasn't a knight, not even a soldier. He was just a stable boy, feeding horses, cleaning stalls, and dreaming of something greater. But destiny has a strange way of finding those who never chase it. One morning, as the first light touched the castle towers, a golden scroll arrived sealed with the mark of the Dragon King, a dragon curled around a sword. The message was simple. The Dragon King will hold his test at dawn. Those who seek glory, come forth. Hundreds gathered at the dragon's peak, a mountain so high that clouds seemed to rest upon its shoulders. The ground trembled slightly, not from the wind, but from the living breath of something massive beneath. Logan stood among warriors twice his size, wearing armors that gleamed under the rising sun. He had no sword, only a rope at his belt and a calm look in his eyes. Around him, men laughed, calling him foolish. "A stable boy?" one sneered. "Go home, child, this is no place for dreamers," but Logan didn't answer. He watched the mountain, he felt its pulse. It was as if the earth itself was alive, breathing, waiting. Then the sky darkened, the wind howled, the clouds twisted together, forming a giant shadow. When it descended, the ground cracked and thunder rolled through every heart. The Dragon King had arrived. His wings spanned wider than any ship. His scales glowed like molten metal, and his eyes burned with ancient fire. When he spoke, the world seemed to pause. "Mortals," his voice rumbled, "you come for power, glory, and title, but few understand the weight of what they seek." He turned his golden gaze toward the crowd. "You wish to be my guardian, protector of realms, keeper of flame. Prove your worth." The first warrior stepped forward, tall and proud. His sword shimmered with magic. His voice was loud and confident. "I will defeat your challenge, my king," he declared. The Dragon King's claws traced the air, and a trial appeared before them, a maze of fire and illusion. The warrior entered, his armor shining like a mirror. Minutes later, the maze exploded in red light. The warrior stumbled out, trembling, his eyes wide with fear. His sword shattered, his voice broken. "It's impossible," he gasped before collapsing one by one. More tried, each failed. Some screamed, some cried, some vanished. Then came Logan's turn. The crowd whispered, "The boy will die in seconds." But Logan stepped forward slowly, his head bowed not in fear, but respect. He looked up at the massive dragon and spoke softly. "My king," he said, "I'm not here for power. I only wish to understand." The Dragon King tilted his head, his golden eyes narrowing. "Understand what, little one?" "Why everyone fails," Logan said. I've seen warriors train their whole lives, yet none succeed. Maybe it's not strength that you test, but something else for the first time. The Dragon King's lips curved, not into anger, but something close to curiosity. Enter then, boy, he said, and find your truth. The fire maze opened once again, but this time it looked different, softer, quieter. The flames bent as Logan walked past, not burning him but lighting his way. Inside he saw illusions, gold, crowns, glory, every temptation that had destroyed those before him. But Logan didn't stop, he didn't touch. He didn't chase. At the center he found something unexpected. A mirror. When he looked inside, he didn't see himself. He saw the faces of the people he served, the horses he cared for, the laughter of children in the village. He realized what the test truly was. Not to conquer fear, but to remain humble in its face. When he stepped out, the crowd went silent. Even the Dragon King's wings lowered. You found the truth, the Dragon King said, and yet you seek no reward? Logan shook his head. A reward would mean I did it for gain. I did it because someone had to try differently. The Dragon King's deep voice echoed like thunder. But this time it wasn't anger, when it was laughter. Deep, powerful, ancient laughter that rolled through the mountains and made the clouds tremble. A boy who made the Dragon King laugh, someone whispered. Disbelief in every word, the king looked down at Logan, his fiery eyes softening. Perhaps strength was never the key, he said. Perhaps kindness was, but the test was not over yet. Because laughter could warm even a dragon's heart. But every fire still hides one last spark, and in the shadows of the mountain, something else was watching, waiting for its turn. The real challenge was yet to begin, and Logan's courage was about to face its true fire. The laughter of the Dragon King echoed through the valley for what felt like an eternity. The warriors who had mocked the boy now stood in stunned silence, their armor suddenly feeling heavier. Their pride crushed beneath the weight of what they had witnessed. A stable boy, not a knight, not a sorcerer, had done what legends had failed to do for 100 years. He had made the Dragon King laugh, but as the echo faded into the mountain winds, something stirred beneath the stone, a faint rumble, low and distant, as if another heartbeat pulsed beneath the Dragon King's own. Logan felt it first. His eyes shifted toward the ground, noticing pebbles trembling around his boots. The Dragon King's great head turned slightly, his expression darkening. The golden glow in his eyes flickered for a moment, not in anger, but in concern. You have awakened something, human, the Dragon King said quietly, his deep voice now edged with unease. Logan frowned. I didn't mean to awaken anything. My king, not you alone, the dragon rumbled, his wings unfolding slowly, but your heart, pure, unbroken. It called to something that has slept too long. The mountain shuddered again. This time stronger, cracks appeared along the ancient stone platform, and from within those cracks faint blue light began to glow, like veins pulsing through the earth. Gasps spread through the crowd. Warriors backed away, gripping their swords. Some fell to their knees, praying, others fled entirely. Disappearing down the rocky paths, Logan stood still. Though fear crept into his chest, what is that? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. The Dragon King closed his eyes, and for the first time, his voice softened, almost sad. Long ago, he began, before mortals walked this realm, there were two of us, guardians of balance, keepers of flame and shadow. I guarded light and wisdom, but my brother... The ground roared, a deafening crack splitting through the mountain. My brother chose envy, the Dragon King finished, his tone heavy as thunder. From the heart of the mountain, a massive claw of black stone tore free, followed by another, and then a dragon emerged. But unlike the king, his scales were as dark as night, glimmering with faint streaks of violet fire. His eyes were like pits of cold flame, and his breath reeked of centuries of hatred. So, you still live, brother, the dark dragon hissed, his voice sharp like cracking ice. The Dragon King's wings flared wide. You were sealed for eternity beneath this mountain. Vareth? Sealed, yes, Vareth sneered. But your laughter woke me, brother. And it was not your voice that broke the silence, and it was this fragile creature's. He turned his head toward Logan, his cold eyes narrowing. A human, small and weak, yet enough to awaken me. How amusing, the Dragon King moved forward, placing himself between Vareth and the boy. The air burned between them, the very sky splitting with lightning. Leave the human be, the king growled. He has passed the test. He means no harm, Vareth's smile widened. No harm? Every spark of goodness has a cost, brother. You caged me here when you chose mercy over power. You thought compassion would save the world. But it only weakened you. Logan's heart pounded. He could barely breathe as the two giants faced each other. Every gust of their breath sent ripples through the clouds. The mountains trembled as if terrified to witness what was coming. You speak like those who fail the test, the Dragon King said. Power without heart destroys itself, and heart without power dies, Vareth hissed. Let us see which truth endures. With a roar that shattered the air, Vareth struck first. A blast of violet flame rushed across the sky, crashing against the golden shield of the Dragon King. The world turned to chaos, wind howled, stones shattered, and the warriors who had stayed ran for their lives. Logan was thrown to the ground, rolling until he hit a broken pillar. Pain seared through his arm, but he forced himself to look up. The dragons clashed mid-air, lightning bursting around them. Fire and shadow danced in deadly beauty. Each roar shook the heavens, and each strike left craters of molten earth. Run, human. The Dragon King thundered between clashes. This battle is not yours. But Logan couldn't move. Something deep inside whispered that it was his battle. Maybe not to fight with strength, but with something else then. As the two dragons locked in a blinding collision of light and shadow, Logan saw it. The glowing veins beneath the ground still pulsed. But now they led toward the mountain's heart, where an ancient crystal stood, cracked but alive. That's what connects them, Logan muttered. That's what binds their power. He stumbled to his feet, ignoring the pain, and began climbing toward the light. The air grew hotter with each step. Every roar of the dragons above felt like a wave crashing down. But he kept going. When he reached the crystal, he could see reflections of both dragons swirling inside it. One golden, one dark, their power trapped in eternal balance. If I can restore this, maybe I can stop them, he whispered. He reached out, his trembling hand pressing against the crystal. A sudden surge of energy shot through him, images flashing in his mind, fire, laughter, sorrow, brotherhood, betrayal. He understood now. The Dragon King's laughter hadn't just been joy. It was forgiveness, a spark of life that broke the seal of hatred. Then maybe laughter can heal it too, Logan whispered. Forcing a smile through the fear, he began to speak, softly, humbly, retelling every funny moment he remembered, every small joy, every bit of kindness that made him human. The crystal flickered, the veins brightened, and above him, the dragons paused mid-battle, their roars fading for a heartbeat. Vareth turned sharply, sensing something. What is this magic? The Dragon King looked down, and for the first time hope returned to his eyes. It's not magic, he said. It's heart. But the balance was fragile, and Logan's strength was fading fast. The light was growing unstable, and the mountain itself began to crumble. The real test and the final trial had only just begun. Would a stable boy's heart be enough to stop two gods of fire from destroying the world? The mountain groaned like a dying beast. Stones rained from above, the air shimmered with fire and smoke, and the once proud temple of the Dragon King now cracked under the fury of two ancient forces. The dark dragon, Vareth, coiled in the sky, his scales glowing with a cruel violet light that made the clouds bleed purple. Below him, the Dragon King, mighty and golden, hovered with his wings torn and his breath heavy. Each roar now carried pain, not power, and between them stood Logan, a human smaller than an ember in a storm of gods, clutching the ancient crystal that pulsed like a living heart. Let it go, boy. Vareth's voice slithered through the air like smoke. You do not understand the fire you hold. But Logan's fingers tightened around the crystal. It was hot, painfully hot, yet he refused to drop it. He could feel something within it, not just power but emotion. Fear, anger, hope, sorrow, and it was alive, breathing through him. I don't need to understand it, he said through gritted teeth. I just need to protect it, the Dragon King's deep voice echoed. Weary but proud, the heart of the mountain binds us both. It is the flame of creation, the balance of all that is light and shadow, Vareth growled. And that balance has kept me in chains, brother. His eyes turned toward Logan. But his heart is too fragile to contain it. Let him burn, and the world will be mine once more. With a violent sweep of his wings, Vareth unleashed a storm of black fire. The blast struck the mountain, shattering ancient pillars. Logan screamed as the shockwave threw him against the rocks. The crystal rolled from his grasp, Its glow dimming, the Dragon King roared and dove, his body shielding Logan from the worst of the flames. His golden scales turned black at the edges. Smoke rising from his wings. "Stay down, human," the Dragon King thundered, but Logan didn't listen. He crawled toward the crystal, ignoring the cuts on his arms. The searing heat biting into his skin. His body trembled, but his eyes stayed fixed on the light. "You think your mercy will save him?" Vareth taunted, circling above. "He is human, weak, temporary, foolish. He will die, and your compassion will die with him." The Dragon King's voice shook with fury. "You speak as if strength alone defines worth. But look below, even broken he still stands." Vareth laughed. "Then let us test that strength." He slammed his claws into the mountain, sending a surge of shadow fire through the ground. The veins of blue light turned black, twisting, feeding off his rage. The entire mountain began to sink inward, as though being swallowed by its own heart. Logan stumbled forward, his vision blurring. The crystal pulsed faintly beside him, but its once bright glow now flickered like a dying candle. He touched it again, and this time, he didn't fight the energy. He let it in. It poured into him like liquid light. Burning through his veins, his heart pounded faster, and his eyes began to glow faintly gold. "I can't fight like you," he whispered to the Dragon King. "But maybe I can finish your story." The Dragon King looked at him, something ancient and proud flickering behind his pain. "What do you mean, boy?" "You said laughter woke the mountain," Logan said weakly. "Maybe it can calm it too." The Dragon King frowned. "You would soothe what was forged in hatred?" "No," Logan said, standing tall even as the ground trembled. "I'll remind it what it forgot, warmth, not war." He raised the crystal high, and a wave of light rippled out, but not bright. Soft, like the glow of dawn through mist, it spread across the battlefield, washing over the broken stones and fire. For a moment, both dragons froze. The storm paused, the flames dimmed. Inside Logan's mind, voices whispered, echoes of every warrior who had failed before him, their cries, their regrets, their hopes all swirling together, and through it all, one truth rose above the chaos. The test was never about defeating the dragon. It was about understanding him. The crystal glowed brighter, now matching the rhythm of Logan's heartbeat. The warmth in his chest spread until it touched the edges of the mountain. Vareth roared, his eyes flashing with panic. "What are you doing?" "Something you forgot to feel," Logan whispered. "Peace." The light reached the dark dragon's wings, and for the briefest moment his fury faltered. Memories flickered within his eyes. Two young dragons, brothers, flying together through endless skies before time divided them. But Vareth's rage was deep, centuries old, and it would not vanish easily. He snarled and lunged forward. "You dare touch my heart, mortal?" The Dragon King intercepted him mid-air. The collision was blinding. Light against darkness, flame against shadow, but this time it was different. They were not fighting to destroy each other, but to contain the power bursting from the boy. Logan fell to his knees, the crystal floating above his hands. Spinning faster, the light grew blinding, reaching toward the heavens like a beacon. And then in silence the mountain froze mid-collapse, every falling rock suspended in air. The flames vanished, the clouds turned white. When the light faded, Logan was lying still on the ground. The crystal now cracked in half beside him. His chest rose slowly. He was alive, but barely. The Dragon King landed beside him, his once mighty wings torn and his body scarred. Yet his eyes were full of quiet pride. "You did what none could," he said softly. "You reached the heart that even I could not touch." But as he spoke, the shadow of Vareth loomed again in the mist, his voice low and trembling with fury. "You think this is over?" he hissed. "You have silenced me for now, but light cannot exist without shadow." The Dragon King turned, his gaze hard. "Then let it be so, brother. But this time, you will not rise through hatred. You will rise through balance." The dark dragon faded into the mist, his roar echoing one last time through the valley, leaving behind only the trembling of the wind. The Dragon King looked down at the boy, then toward the sunrise breaking through the clouds. "The world will remember this day," he said, "not for dragons or battles, but for the heart of a stable boy who turned fire into peace." But deep beneath the mountain, in the cracks of the crystal's remains, a faint spark still glowed, neither golden nor violet, but something in between, pulsing softly like a sleeping heart. And somewhere in the silence that followed, the mountain whispered once more, The test is not over. Dawn crept over the shattered mountain, painting the broken stone in hues of gold and ash. Smoke drifted through the air, wrapping the ruins like a heavy memory. The once proud peak now looked like the ribs of some ancient creature. Cracked and hollow but still alive, at the center of that silence lay Logan. His clothes scorched, his hands burned, but his heart still beating faint and steady beside him. The Dragon King stood like a monument of flame turned to flesh. His wings torn but his eyes still burning with light. "He lives," the Dragon King whispered, the relief in his voice shaking the dust from the air. "He lives." But peace, true peace, never lasts long in the lands touched by dragons. From beneath the earth came a soft pulse, a heartbeat slow but deliberate. Each throb made the ground tremble as though the mountain itself remembered the battle that should have ended. The Dragon King turned toward the ruins of the crystal, its two halves lying just a few feet apart, faint light flickering inside both. One golden, one violet. "Balance," he murmured, broken yet alive. As he watched, the two halves began to move, ever so slightly, inching toward one another. The Dragon King spread his wings, alarm flashing across his eyes. "No, it's too soon," he growled. Logan stirred, his voice hoarse. "What's happening?" "The heart of the mountain," the Dragon King said. "When you split it, you divided its soul. My light and Vareth's shadow. But now it seeks to heal itself, and that healing will awaken what we buried." Before he could finish, the two shards met with a sound like a bell ringing through the heavens. A surge of energy rippled outward, throwing the Dragon King back. The mountain glowed from within, veins of gold and violet merging into something new, something unstable. The light wasn't bright this time, it was alive, moving like a heartbeat, pulsing like breath, and then it spoke, not with words but with emotion. A wave of feeling swept through the air, sorrow, longing, fear, and then something colder, deeper, older than either dragon. The ground split open, and from the wound rose a third presence, neither gold nor black, but gray, shifting, flickering like smoke trying to become solid. Its shape was uncertain, sometimes human, sometimes dragon, sometimes nothing at all. What is that?" Logan whispered, shielding his eyes. The Dragon King's voice trembled. "The echo, the forgotten soul between light and shadow, the one our war erased." The shape turned its gaze toward them. Its eyes were mirrors, reflecting every fear, every failure, every memory. "I am what you cast away," the voice said, soft yet powerful, echoing from everywhere and nowhere at once. "When you fought, I was born. The silence between your roars, the hatred between your love. I am the shadow that learned to breathe." Vareth's voice echoed faintly in the wind, though his body was gone. The echo. "You survived?" The being smiled in a sad, fractured smile. "Survived? No, I was created by both of you, by your fire and his mercy. I am the wound you left behind." The Dragon King's eyes narrowed. "If you are truly born of us, then you know you cannot exist without destruction. Then destruction I shall be," the echo whispered. The mountain screamed, a wave of energy shot outward, tearing apart what little remained of the ruins. Trees far below turned to ash, rivers boiled, and the air itself burned with colorless fire. Logan was thrown backward, but the Dragon King caught him mid-air. His voice thundered through the chaos. "Go, human." "You've done enough. Leave this to me." "No!" Logan shouted, clinging to his arm. "Last time you fought alone, you almost lost everything. I'm not leaving." The Dragon King looked at him, pain and pride mixing in his gaze. "You are immortal. Your flame burns short. You cannot fight what was forged by gods." Logan's voice shook. "Then maybe gods need to stop fighting and start listening." The echo's laughter filled the air. "He speaks like fire, this little one," it said. But even fire fades before they could react. The echo's form split into three. One shadow wrapping around the Dragon King, one seeping into the ground and one reaching for Logan. Logan screamed as cold fire entered his chest. He fell to his knees, gasping. His mind filled with images and endless battles. Burning skies, lifetimes of anger and pride. He saw through the eyes of both dragons, their glory, their mistakes, their love, their guilt. And then he saw something neither had ever noticed. A small, still light deep beneath the rage. A light shaped like a single tear. He understood. The echo wasn't just a monster. It was the pain they refused to face. "You're not evil," he whispered, clutching his chest. "You're their sorrow." The echo hesitated, its shifting form trembling. "Sorrow? I am what remains when hope dies. Then maybe hope just forgot you, Logan said softly, reaching out a hand. Let me remember for you. The Dragon King shouted. Logan, no. But it was too late. Logan touched the heart of the echo, and the world froze. The wind stopped, the fire paused. Even time itself held its breath inside the silence. Logan stood face to face with the echo's true form, a young dragon, transparent and trembling, eyes wide like a child lost in darkness. I didn't want to hurt anyone, it said, its voice small. I just wanted to be seen, Logan smiled, tears streaming down his soot-stained face. Then be seen, but not through fear, through forgiveness. He wrapped his arms around the glowing form, and the light burst outward, filling the world with color. Gold, violet, silver, and white merging into one. The Dragon King shielded his eyes as the mountain blazed brighter than the sun. When it dimmed, Logan was gone, the echo was gone, and in the air, only warmth remained. The Dragon King lowered his head, sadness deep in his golden eyes. He bridged what even gods could not. But as he turned to leave, a single spark drifted past him, small, glowing, carrying a familiar heartbeat. It whispered softly, "The test is not over. It has just begun." The next morning began with thunder rolling through the Dragon King's mountain. A storm brewed above the peaks, and the sky was painted in crimson fire. The Dragon King had summoned the last trial, a test that had broken even the bravest souls. Logan stood before the ancient hall of molten rock, his face pale but his eyes steady. He had faced the test of strength, the test of wisdom, and the test of courage. But now came the final one, the trial of fire and heart, a challenge meant to test the very soul of a warrior, not just their power. The Dragon King appeared from the darkness, his golden scales glowing like the sun itself. "Human," his voice echoed. "You've surprised me, but your heart is still unproven." Flames surrounded the hall, and the temperature rose until the stones began to crack. Logan swallowed his fear but said nothing. He simply nodded, ready for whatever came next. "Inside this fire," the Dragon King continued, "lies something you care for, something you love, but to save it, you must be willing to lose everything, even your own life." Before Logan could speak, the ground split open and a portal of fire appeared before him. From within he heard a faint voice, soft, fragile, and familiar. It was his mother's voice, crying for help, calling his name through the flames. Logan's eyes widened in disbelief. He had not seen his mother since the day he left his village to serve at the royal stables. His legs trembled as the Dragon King's gaze bore down on him. "Save her if you dare," the king said coldly. "But know this, the flames will not spare you." Without a second thought, Logan ran forward. The fire roared, wrapping around him like living beasts. Biting and burning, he screamed in pain but kept going, his heart screaming louder than the flames. He pushed deeper into the inferno until his skin turned raw and his breath came in gasps. There she was, his mother, bound in chains made of fire, her figure flickering like smoke. He reached for her, but his hands burned, his skin blistering instantly. Still, he didn't stop. He tore at the burning chains with everything he had left. Each touch sent pain through his entire body, but his love was stronger than pain. Finally, with one last pull, the chains shattered, the fire exploded around them, and suddenly the figure of his mother faded away. It wasn't real, it was all an illusion, a test. Logan fell to his knees, his body scorched, tears streaming down his soot-stained face. The flames around him died down, replaced by a calm golden light. The Dragon King appeared again, this time not angry, but silent, thoughtful. "You chose love over survival," he said quietly. "No warrior before you ever did that." Logan could barely speak, his voice hoarse. "I didn't come here to win." "Your Majesty," he whispered, "I came here to do what's right." The Dragon King lowered his head, his eyes softening for the first time. The massive hall filled with a deep hum as ancient runes glowed across the walls. The fire that had tried to consume Logan now formed a crown of golden light above him. The Dragon King raised his claw and placed it gently upon Logan's shoulder. "Then you have passed the true test, not of strength, not of courage, but of heart." The storm above the mountain broke into sunlight, and for the first time in centuries the Dragon King smiled, not with pride, but respect. Yet even in that moment of triumph, the shadows deep within the mountain began to stir. The fire's light revealed something else, something darker, a vast, ancient seal cracking open beneath the floor. The Dragon King turned sharply. His wings spreading wide, his voice grew tense. No, not now, not again. Logan stumbled to his feet, confusion washing over him. What's happening? He asked. But the Dragon King didn't answer, because the seal split open, releasing a roar older and darker than time itself. A figure emerged from the abyss, enormous, wingless yet full of malice, the Shadow Dragon. The king's long-banished brother, once the ruler of the void, now freed by the very fire that tested Logan's soul. And so began a new storm, not of fire, but of destiny. The real battle had only just begun, and Logan, the boy who was once a stable hand, now stood between light and darkness. The fate of the Dragon Kingdom rested on his burned, trembling hands. The mountain trembled again, and the Dragon King whispered one last time, "Logan, prepare yourself. The world is about to change forever." The mountain roared like a wounded beast, shaking to its very core. Flames spiraled toward the storm-dark sky as the earth split beneath Logan's feet. He could barely stand, his burned legs trembling. But his eyes, still steady, still alive, locked onto the horror rising before him. From the abyss crawled a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. Its skin shimmered like liquid smoke, wings broken but vast shadows still spread behind it. Its voice was cold, deep, ancient. "So," it hissed, "my brother replaced warriors with a child." The Dragon King stepped forward, his scales blazing with golden fury. "Enough, Dravok," he thundered. "Your time was ended centuries ago," the Shadow Dragon, Dravok, laughed, the sound tearing through the air like breaking stone. "Ended? No, brother, merely delayed." His eyes turned toward Logan, glowing red like burning coal. "And this fragile creature passed your test? Pathetic." Logan felt the heat of their power clash before a single blow was struck. The air crackled, the ground glowed beneath their feet. He knew he couldn't match either of them in strength. But maybe, just maybe, he could understand them. The Dragon King roared first, unleashing a torrent of divine fire. Dravok countered with black smoke that swallowed light itself. The two forces collided, creating an explosion so powerful it tore apart the mountain's peak. Logan was thrown back, rolling across the stone, barely catching his breath. The world above was chaos, light and shadow twisting into storms. The king's fire began to fade under the weight of Dravok's darkness. For every flame, the shadow grew thicker, hungrier. Logan could see it in the Dragon King's eyes. He was losing, and yet something about Dravok's words echoed in Logan's mind. "Merely delayed," he'd said. Delayed? By what? By who? Logan forced himself up, every step agony. He ran toward the heart of the chamber, the same seal that had broken. He saw ancient markings glowing faintly on the floor, symbols pulsing like veins, runes that looked familiar. He remembered them. He'd seen them carved on the stable's oldest doors back home. Those weren't just decorations. They were fragments of the same language. He placed his hand over the glowing runes, feeling them pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. A vision surged into his mind, and centuries ago, the two brothers had ruled together, the dragon of flame and the dragon of shadow. Light and dark bound in balance, but when mankind entered their world, they split. One believed humans could grow, the other feared they'd destroy, and so Dravok turned against his brother, shattering the balance and plunging the world into war. Logan gasped as the vision faded. The key wasn't destruction, it was balance. The Dragon King had never intended to kill his brother. He wanted someone who could unite both sides. That's why none of the warriors had passed the tests. They only sought to win, not heal. Logan turned toward the battling dragons. He cupped his hands and shouted through the chaos, "Stop! This isn't a fight to destroy, this is a test to unite." Neither of them heard him, so he did the unthinkable. He ran straight into the battlefield between them. The fire scorched his back. The shadows sliced his skin like blades. He screamed but didn't stop. He reached the center where their powers met and thrust his hands into the collision point. A blinding light erupted. Fire and shadow exploded outward, but instead of tearing apart, they began to merge. The energy roared through him like thunder, threatening to burn him alive, but Logan held on, shouting from the core of his being, "You're brothers. You don't have to destroy each other. Your power exists together." For a moment, silence fell. Then a voice, soft, ancient, and layered, spoke from within the light. "My child, you understand what they never could." The energy collapsed inward, drawing both dragons into the blinding center. Logan was lifted off the ground, his body surrounded by spiraling gold and black flame. The two dragons' forms began to dissolve, turning into energy. The golden fire and shadow merged into him, and when the light faded, he stood alone, glowing with both. The mountain was still, the air calm, but Logan was forever changed. His eyes glowed gold and black. His heartbeat echoed like distant thunder. From the silence, the Dragon King's voice whispered faintly in his mind. "You have done what none of us could, Logan Hayes. You restored balance to our world from this day forth. You are the keeper of flame and shadow." As the light faded and the mountain began to rebuild itself, Logan stepped outside and looked upon the dawn breaking over the world. The fire no longer burned to destroy. It glowed softly, warming the valley below. The shadows no longer crept in fear. They rested beside the light, in peace, and somewhere in that golden horizon, two voices whispered together. "We are proud, my son." Logan smiled faintly. The boy who once brushed horses now carried the legacy of dragons. He walked down the mountain path, the wind whispering through the ashes of battle. Behind him the great mountain glowed, half gold, half black, a symbol of unity of fire and shadow. And though his story had ended there, the legend of Logan Hayes, keeper of balance, was only just beginning.